Okay, again, I'm sorry for the recording. And again, this is Tim Engel, part of the Chapman University Manu Shah grant. And we're doing an interview today with Tom Klukowski. I'm sorry, Tom, could you start over again? I apologize.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for having me on the show,
Yes,
on the recording. Really appreciate it. I know the
yes, sir.
topic's all about manufacturing, and I just say that manufacturing has blessed my life at a wonderful career, and always want to give back. So, just to give you a summary of my career, especially the students listening to this recording. First of all, I started out as an industrial engineer. I studied industrial engineering at university. Industrial engineering is all about process optimization, statistics, how to improve things, and it's very closely related to manufacturing engineering. Also ergonomics inside of the plant, industrial and occupational psychology, all those things go into industrial engineering. But when I went out into the workforce, spent a little time in technical marketing, right? So think about all these engineering machines that we put together. You have to take that information and present it to other engineers that are buying these machines. How are they going to use them in their factories? So start out there, and then really my career took a turn towards quality engineering. So imagine I was measuring parts to make sure they're in conformance, reacting to problems in the factory and how to fix them, improving supplier quality. From there, very quickly, I got put into a leadership position at 23 years old. And I was part of a team to launch a brand new, huge diesel engine plant. And that was my first experience with leadership inside of a factory. So again, great opportunity, especially being very young and hungry and have a lot of initiatives. Learned a lot on the job. And from then I went on to other leadership opportunities. I was director of operations of an electronics assembly plant. Then I went on to oversee manufacturing and R&D at a chemical plant. And that was my span of career in the corporate world in manufacturing. And one of the things that I've always did when I was in charge of a plant or in charge of operation or launching a new product, I was always fascinated by technology and how can technology can make our life better. So when I left the corporate world, that's where I got involved in investing, funding, and partnering with bringing innovative and emerging technology to the manufacturing space. And I've been doing that now for 5 years. So again, it's been a absolute blessing for me in manufacturing. One thing, we can talk about. There's a lot of opportunities in manufacturing, and I like to definitely, encourage people to look into manufacturing as a career because even if you're coming in entry level with no experience at all, there's a lot of opportunities in manufacturing versus other industries. And then also, if you're a student and you want to see where you can apply the knowledge you learn in school to, there's also a lot of opportunities in manufacturing. So there's a career path there that is very unique to the industry.
That's super. Well, Tom, that was an amazing short tour of your experiences and so forth. I wanted to back up just for a minute and ask a couple little more detailed questions, if I may. Um, what when you got started, when you got started at school, what school did you go to, and what was your major?
Yeah, so I went to Bradley University and I studied industrial engineering.
Oh, super. Okay, that's right. And you started with industrial engineering. And how did you get your foot in the door? Did you start with like an apprenticeship, or did you get was it a network thing, or how did you get started? How did you get
No,
your start?
and that's a great question, and I skipped that part, but I was very fortunate and thankful, and I'll have to count. I've had, well, probably counting summers as a semester. I think I had 7 semesters of internship while I was getting my degree.
Oh, that's super.
Uh, yeah, and honestly, that was probably what gave me the leg up from my peers was that there were a lot of opportunities to go to school, but then actually work in the business, apply those things, then take that experience back into school. You know, a lot of those things in the textbooks came alive after you had the experience. You understood what we were studying and how it can be applied. So I think that's a big one. And honestly, I would say that there's more of those opportunities than people think. I know here in Texas, I've worked with the local high school that had a vocational program along with community colleges where they actually start doing co-ops in the factory even before you graduate high school, and then there's internship opportunities from there. So those opportunities are out there, and definitely would encourage that you combine your education with internships because yeah, it makes a big difference. And honestly, a lot of them are paid and they pay really well, right? So that's the other thing. These are somewhat, technical jobs. So they will pay higher than having a part-time job, working at your local retailer or food service industry. Like it's an opportunity you can actually make some money, learn, and really explore it as a career.
Yeah, that's super. That's great advice. Um, Jim, let me see if I can ask you a couple other little questions here. Let's see. So you've had an amazing. I've interviewed a couple of people that are similar to you, where uh, I worked with a guy at Boeing. He was a manager, leader out on the probably first level leader out on the shop floor, but he's moved on and on and on, and now he's doing mergers and acquisitions. So it sounds like you're almost on the verge of that yourself. But uh, let's see what else was going to ask you. What are one question I wanted to ask you that while I'm thinking about it is I wanted to ask you, how did you meet Jim Meehan? How did you
Mhm.
and what was the connection there?
Yeah, so I met Jim. So one of the things that I learned really fast, being making the transition from corporate world to entrepreneur, is that you think you have a large network, right? I worked at these large companies, met a lot of people. I had I think 300 LinkedIn connections, and I was like, wow, I know so many people. I'm gonna start my business, and then you realize like, once you go out on your own you really got to build out your network. So yeah, I met actually Jim through LinkedIn, which uh, I don't work for LinkedIn, but I will say it's a great tool for networking, especially if you come in with genuine intentions and you just meet people that have common interests and common experiences. And there's definitely for manufacturing a lot of people that have these experiences working in factories, but we all work in silos, right? Like the factories, if you're working at a BMW factory, you probably don't get a chance to network with somebody that works at a Boeing factory. And LinkedIn is our water cooler to talk about things, whether it's continuous improvement or how to
Yeah,
improve quality. So that's how I met Jim, and since then we've worked together on a couple projects, and yeah, it's been very, very exciting. But yeah, honestly, every client that I have, from a startup to large, multi-billion dollar clients, were all started with a conversation on LinkedIn.
that's super. That is wonderful. And so your what is your role right now? Where did you say you fell at the current time?
Yeah. So currently, I'm involved in a few different ventures. Again, I was very fortunate and blessed with the corporate career in manufacturing, right? That gave me the
Yes,
the ability to go into these ventures. So I invested in a few companies. I founded a few companies, and I'm also partner in a couple of ventures. So I'm managing partner of Office Samurai, which is a company that works with AI automation for enterprises. And one of our niches is manufacturing and supply chain companies. So what we do is there's a lot of processes, repetitive tasks, a lot of things in manufacturing world where we can come in and automate. And you hear a lot of noise about AI taking jobs, but for us, when we're working with manufacturers, a lot of times we're using AI because, we need more data. Like we were getting data once a month. Now that we have AI and automation, we can get data daily. We use data in manufacturing to improve our processes. So that's with Office Samurai. We're seeing the impact when we're working with manufacturing and supply chains is that we're not coming in to figure out how we can have AI to cut heads. Is we actually how can we improve the business? And one of the things in manufacturing that is absolutely essential is a continuous improvement mindset. So that's where we fit in with Office Samurai. Also in charge of all of the outreach and sales for Jiri, which is a company that I invested in. And it is a augmented reality technology for creating work instructions in factories. Again, a huge need, not just in the US, honestly, globally. We have a large part of our population that has retired or is retiring, a lot of know-how and knowledge that has left, and there's a lot of factories that never documented that knowledge. So that's where we came in with very uh, easy to use emerging technology of augmented reality to be able to capture that know-how. So that's my venture with Jiri. So be between those two ventures, that's most of my time. I also still do freelance engineering and consulting also. So that's very entrepreneurial, but again, all this came from a career in manufacturing, and now I support manufacturers around the country and around the world.
That's amazing. What an amazing career you've had. And you're a young man. Uh, I I I guess would it be okay for me to ask your age?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 37 years old, so yeah.
37. Yeah. That's amazing. You've had an amazing career already or amazing journey. Um, that is just amazing. What would you say is like a one of the key things that was good for you in terms of your career? Yeah, and what I mean by that is good characteristics or good choice that you made along the way. You know, accepting risks or taking risks or volunteering for assignments or job opportunities
Mhm.
or being willing to change. You know, those kinds of things. What was it? What
Mhm.
were there some key ones for you,
Mhm.
Tom, along the way?
Absolutely, and I think asking the question, Tim, you really gave the answer. It's about initiative, and that is probably the thing that set me apart in my career, and I will definitely recommend everybody to take initiative. And actually, I'll give pragmatic and practical advice on how you can do it to succeed because honestly it's not that difficult. One thing I'll say as an industrial engineer or as any engineer in a factory, there is something called the Pareto, right, which is the eighty
Yes.
twenty rule, right? Everything it doesn't matter what data you look at, it always comes down to, the 20% of effort is 80% of the outcome. And honestly, it comes the same with people, right? So, there's the 20% of people in any organization that are taking the initiative and then bringing in 80% of the results. So you want to be part of that 20%. And one of the things that the practical advice that I love to give to students as they go in is don't be afraid to show initiative. I think, as long as you're always polite and professional, then you showing initiative will not be taken the wrong way. I think a lot of times people hold back because they're afraid to step on someone's toes. Again, that's why the polite professional, be polite and professional, but show initiative, show up, ask what I can do, help, what can I do more? Uh, and again, do it in a humble way, right? Like not, what do I need to do more to get the next raise? Yeah, don't do that. No, just genuinely be helpful and try to do more. What I will say is that I remember this very clearly. I was interviewing for a job and speaking with a HR person, and they looked at my resume and they were just like, yeah, it seems like you're changing jobs often. But the truth is I wasn't changing jobs often. What was happening is every year I was being promoted. So I went from a systems engineer to a manager to a director. And I remember like I got a little bit upset at this HR recruiter, and I said, it's like, look, I never applied for any of those jobs. Like I was given those jobs, as I went through. Really in my corporate career, I only worked for 3 companies, right? So it was just that every year I would get advanced. So my practical advice to anybody that wants to have a good career is every job I got, so whether it was going from manager to director, going from a engineer to a management leadership position, is that I was already doing that job before I got the title and the raise. And again, what that means is you don't have to have a title of a boss to be a leader, right? Being a leader is being helpful. People will go to you. You don't need to have that title of the boss to be a leader. The same thing with moving to more of a strategic role is again, you can look at things and bring things up to your boss, show the initiatives, and say, hey, I'm looking at these numbers and I think we can save this much money. Now you're thinking strategic. So again, you're already doing the job before you do it, and I think that's the best advice I can give to anybody because as somebody who hired hundreds of people and promoted a lot of people towards leadership positions throughout my career, I will tell you that nothing makes it easier for somebody in a position to promote somebody to say, hey, they're already doing the job. So let's just give them the title and the pay and make it happen. So again, don't be afraid to take initiative.
Yeah, super, super good advice. Some of the things you were saying, I was thinking, yes, I did that, or I've done some of those things, and it's so so true. One of the things one of my leaders told me one time, I was working out on the shop floor, and but it was a good job, it was a good position, it was decent pay, and he said he wrote it on my whiteboard in my office. He said it said hungry and humble, stay hungry and humble, and those are good words to live by. That's a good
Mhm.
motto to live by. But you've given a lot of good advice. Um, Tom, let me ask another question about AI. Some people are concerned about the future of AI, and we've heard a lot in the news about it. We've seen robots that are out of control and their arms are swinging wildly, and uh, and I think it was over in Japan where that happened. I had a friend who worked for JPL, and he helped develop AI. He wrote a book about I think it was software quality. His name's Kirk Kent, Kandt. uh, but most of his career was at JPL, and he had a good career, and he retired not long ago. And I asked him, and I interviewed him also as well, and uh, similar to this podcast where you and I are doing. And actually, we did two with him, and it inspired him to go on and write a book similar to Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. Only he did a pretty good job of it. I could email it to you if you want, but
Yeah, absolutely.
I asked him about the killer robots, and he said, no, not at least for 100 years. Nothing close by on the horizon. But um,
Well, I can tell you technology is moving quickly, and I get to see some things before they're made public. And yeah, I will say yes, is advancing very, very quickly. And I don't look at it as fear. I definitely I seen the video you mentioned about the robot flailing its arms in the factory. I will say for anybody, going into manufacturing. We always say safety first, but in the manufacturing, like that's not a negotiable, right? Like that's a safety
right,
first is because at the end of the day, and honestly, there's so many misconceptions about manufacturing out there. There's so many people talking about manufacturing that never walked a day in their life in a factory. Even manufacturing influencers that never, worked in a factory. But I will say, that safety is so important. So that's why, you'll see a lot of the robotics, especially like when I was when it was before the cobots rage, right? The collaborative robots that work with people. You had
yes,
very industrial cages, keeping people away from robots because again, it's dangerous. So as we go into more cobots, I'm personally not a huge fan of the humanoid robots. I think that's again a lot of hype, not from the manufacturing field, because you got to realize in a factory we spend industrial engineers, manufacturing engineers, they're spending hours on building fixtures to be ergonomic to the human being. We design workstations and processes to put a human being into. If we were
Yes.
working with machines, like we don't need a machine that looks like a human now. Now we can design those machines to be built better for robotics, so they're safer, so they take up less space, so they're more efficient. So that's why like the humanoid robotics for me for manufacturing, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's like we're spending all this money to make manufacturing work for people, and now we're going back. I mean, perfect example, the Toyota Tundra plant here in San Antonio. Like every workstation, automotive is probably the textbook in manufacturing when you're studying in a school is for best practices. Well, you imagine automotive plant, a lot of times they have to produce a full vehicle, a full truck or car in a minute. So they have to build out their factory where each step takes 1 minute, it's coordinated, it's synchronized, and then each person at each station can't lift more than 35 pounds so that they don't get overwhelmed. So all of that engineering that goes in and to do that. So that's why, I think when it comes to robotics in manufacturing, we'll see more of the traditional arms make more sense. What I've seen on the AI side is the actual component of, robots using sensors and vision systems to where they can, really operate at a level that an operator can do. So again, it changes the way manufacturing looks like, but that's honestly the one thing that's constant in manufacturing is change because again, the continuous improvement is just part of the DNA. You can't be a manufacturer without having continuous improvement. And what that means is you're always embracing new technology. So we go from doing repetitive tasks to then having people oversee robots. So again, there's always it's not the robot's going to take your job. It's just that automation and jobs going to change.
Right, right. Yeah, it's one thing that's uh every day is change, right? Continuous improvement, that was the Toyota model and on the in McDonnell Douglas Boeing we had lean initiatives and one of the things I was in charge of on the C-17 program for a number of years was continuous improvement. And I, I I was enlisted. I was enlisted to volunteer for that. A peer of mine contacted me. He said, "Hey, would you be interested in taking on this role?" And I thought, "How in the world am I going to do that?" But what I did was I put together a great team because I knew, and team building is so important. I think, and I'm sure you did a lot of that in collaborating and team building and I just reached out to a lot of people to to put a team together because on my own I just couldn't do it, you know. But once I had a good team in place, I was like, okay, now I feel somewhat comfortable, and we were successful for years there. Um, but anyway, yeah, that's fantastic.
Hmm.
Uh,
And I think Tim, you bring up a good point. One of the I would say profiles of individuals that do well in manufacturing is athletes that play team sports because manufacturing truly is a team sport. It's, compared to other industries, you are really working together and it's definitely having that team mentality and manufacturing comes through. I mentioned about the large plant earlier, right? It's a coordination. Like you have to coordinate, work together you're communicating. It's no different than being on a football field. You got 10 people in an assembly cell. One person has to do this, the next person has to do that. You have to work together. Somebody from quality has to come in, do their part. So it's definitely, I've had a lot of success with former high school and collegiate athletes and even pros that ended up working in manufacturing for me, and it was a good fit for them because they like that team. We call them huddles, right? And in manufacturing, we got huddles
yes.
every shift change,
Yep.
every morning. Again, we take a lot from sports into to manufacturing. So that's again something for, people's career path. If that's something they really enjoyed, whether they're in high school and they're looking about a career, manufacturing is a team sport.
Right. Right. I know that a lot of the little conference rooms they had around the factory, they named them huddle rooms. They were where you could get together and huddle up. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's great. Uh, let's see, Tom. Let me ask you another question. Can you talk about? You already did hit some highlights and so forth, but highlights or achievements of your career, or or lessons learned, any of those things that you'd like to share with the
Yeah.
students, and that they might be able to take and say, hey,
Mhm.
I'd like to emulate Tom, in doing that a certain behavior or a certain achievement or
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a lot of baptism by fire with a lot of
yes,
these things for
yes,
me in my career. So, I mean, I think that's probably the first thing I would share with is and I just had this conversation with a colleague. Don't be afraid to fail. When you learn, you never really fail. So you go out and you try things. It's important to make a decision. I think that's probably the other part, especially like being in management and leadership. People look to you to lead, so you don't have to make the perfect decision. You just have to make the weigh your options and make decisions. I think of things in my career that come down to. So I launched a couple plants, and that was organized chaos. I think there it's just you're going to be overwhelmed with all the things that you have to do. So when you're launching a plant, especially if you're also like I was involved in the construction, right? So you design the layout and you got to build it, you got to bring all the fixtures in, you got to train the people. I think there's just the advice there is you are going to be overwhelmed. It is going to be a lot, but you just systematically take it one by one. As the expression go, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. So that would
yes,
be the advice I would give to people that it could be overwhelming. I think that always look for opportunities to be more efficient and be better, because those things will have a positive impact, not only for your company but on your career. To come up and with ideas on how you can improve, and honestly, it's how to make people's lives better, right? So, uh, simple things go a long way. For example, uh, most places that I've worked, I've always ended up buying like anti-fatigue mats for folks to stand on. Makes a huge difference, because in a lot
yes.
of manufacturing stations, you're going to be on your feet 8, 10 hours a day. So little things like that help. Make like getting people the right type of gloves, that are comfortable and work. Those little things go a long way. Definitely, and again, depends on what kind of manufacturing environment you're in. Most of my career, I've been in plants where I was able to do this. Sometimes in union plants, you're not able to do certain jobs as an engineer or a manager, but anytime you can get involved on the floor, lead by example goes a long way. So if you see, for example, team members are having to come in, on a Saturday to finish a job, if you can come in with them, help them on the floor so they can go home quicker. Things like that that I've done in my career, those things are remembered. So definitely being hands-on and involved if you can. And again, some plants will have specific rules where you're not allowed to touch certain parts or move things. But if you're in a position where you can get on the floor and help out, I'd strongly recommend you do that, no matter what your title is. If you're the CEO of the company, believe me, the best CEOs I know have gotten on the floor in their factories, or business owners get on the floor on the factory with their people, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Working primarily in aerospace most of my career, I learned from inspectors who worked for me, and I had inspectors that were inspecting the sidewall of the airplane before the sidewall panel covers went up, and there's all kinds of systems running through the airplane, whether it's commercial or military. But in this case, it was a C-17, which is a military, and And the inspector was showing me how he touches everything, and he doesn't just look at it, he touches it. And I said, why do you touch everything? Why do you have to put your hands on it? Because you can see if it looks right or not. He goes, well, sometimes I'll reach up and I'll touch a component and it'll come off in my hand. And I said, well, what on earth? He goes, well, you never know what happened. I mean, it could be the mechanic got called away for an emergency. He had a phone call, his son broke his arm or whatever, or lunch bell went off and then the mechanic forgot about completing the job, whatever. It could be a million different reasons, but it was so important to touch everything. And I thought that's amazing, good advice. And then
Mhm.
later, when there was a strike going on, and I was doing a little bit of work out on the flight ramp, and I was up on a scissor lift with another inspector, and he was showing me how he would also touch everything. And even more important was we were pre-flighting for engines, and even more important, right?
Mhm.
Because that's a flight critical
Oh yeah.
system. But yeah, absolutely. And then you learn a little bit more about what the job is for your folks, and
Hmm.
the critical nature of everybody's tasks. So I agree with you with 100%.
And again,
Talk.
that kind of ties back to that, you know, called tribal knowledge or the knowledge from experience. And that's honestly the scary part for our industry is, you have people that have that know-how that, hey, maybe 5 years ago I touched this wire and it fell off. Like, well, they're always going to touch that wire going forward. But then
Right.
if you
Yeah.
hire somebody and you don't have that training and you don't capture that knowledge, that's why it's challenge. That's why it's really, really important for us as we, go into the future, as we bring the next generation up, as we capture the generation of experience before and combine the two.
Yeah. And you said you're working on that, right? That's one of the things
Yeah.
that you're working on, is
Yeah, so
capturing knowledge.
yeah, so we have a tool that does that. It's the company's name is Jiri, and what it is you actually using augmented reality as you job shadow an experienced person. They walk you through the steps of what they're doing. We're able to capture that information and document it, and then the next in a way, in a format that's really nice and easy to use for somebody coming in. So this again, that's why it's so important. And I'll tell you that. So there's, and as you know, in the aircraft industry, uh, documented procedures and processes are like that's a standard, right? Like you can't be
Yeah.
in that business unless you have documented procedures. And that's not the only industry. Like I do a lot with medical, oil and gas. A lot of the regulated industries
Hmm.
require that procedures documented. But I was at one of these multi-billion-dollar regulated factories, and I was doing a demonstration of the software, and we're talking about, how do you justify it? Why do you need it? Obviously, they were established large companies, so they had procedures. And the funny part was like, okay, well, just like I said to you, it's like, okay, let me job shadow somebody, and I'll document, what they're doing, and then I can show you the result of it. So, just like if you ever been audited, right? The employee that I was working with, all of a sudden stands up straight and, does everything by the book, pulls up the procedures. But as he's pulling up the procedures and going through it, I'm capturing and he's using the company standard. He gets to a point where he doesn't know what to do, reaches into his pocket and just has like a piece of paper with a schematic on what he has to do next. And basically I looked at the manager and I said, there you go, there's your justification. It's like, yes, you have work instructions, but you're not current because people are creating
Right.
their own work instructions to do the job. So I think like that's again that tribal knowledge that's, and every day we're losing it, and we lost a lot of it during COVID, right? A lot of people retired, and I think we're seeing that, and companies that have been known for their quality are having quality issues, right?
Yes.
Honestly, I think the big part of that is because we relied on very experienced people that did the jobs for many years, and now they've retired, and nobody documented those things or didn't document it completely, and now there's gaps.
Yes. Well, Tom, the example you're talking about is something near and dear to my heart, and it should be all of our hearts. People like us that are involved in this technology. But I worked on the C-17 for many years, and they stopped production 10 years ago. Well, guess what? The Air Force and other customers are interested in buying more C-17s. Now, a lot of my peers have already told me, Tim, it's never going to happen. It can't happen. It's too hard. It's too expensive. And my answer to them, and tell me if I'm crazy, but whether it's the C-17 or the C-17B or the C-XX, there will be a need for more airlift, and it's
Mhm.
going to happen. It probably will happen soon, and Boeing will want to be involved with it.
Mhm.
Uh, Now, whether they recreate tooling, they have to go back and remodel and reverse engineer or whatever, however it's going to be. Either way, it's going to be expensive, but
Oh,
it will be done. And you and I are going to pay taxes to pay for that,
oh
to
yeah,
make it happen. But
absolutely.
anyway, yeah, it's interesting, and that knowledge transfer and documentation would be so helpful. That
Hmm.
kind of thing. And you say you have software
Hmm.
packs. What did you say it was called? Jury?
Giri, Giri. Yep. So yeah,
GIRI.
definitely, yeah,
That's
definitely, some fun and if there's ever an opportunity to show students a demo of what it looks like, I think it's an example of fun technology that you get to work with in the manufacturing field. It's you know d definitely for people that enjoyed building with Legos, right, when they were kids.
yeah,
Manufacturing is for you, right? Like there's going to be a lot of like the STEM initiatives that are out there right now for young kids. If they enjoyed that, we know when they're in elementary school and then junior high, manufacturing is where you get to apply those skills. And if you enjoy math, that's again a great opportunity to go into. You know, again, there's a lot of for years now, a lot of positive media coverage for manufacturing. So, we are seeing growth in manufacturing. I think we will continue seeing growth in manufacturing. I think that that's not going to change. I really, to me, manufacturing is as important as agriculture when it comes to nations. So you need to have the capability to make and grow your own food. You also need to have the capability to manufacture many of the things. And we've seen that many times, whether it was a strike at the ports or a ship getting stuck at the Suez Canal or COVID shutting down whole nations. Is that when we have these supply chain disruptions, it really shows you the need that we really need to have a balanced and reliable supply chain around the world so that we can weather those storms and not be reliant on, everything being outsourced from one country.
yeah. Not so many years ago, the Seattle Boeing was having trouble building and completing commercial aircraft because of supply chain issues. And to make it simple, they couldn't get the parts in a timely manner.
Hmm.
There's another school of thought, and you probably would tend to agree with this, that if you can build the part in-house and keep it, design it, build it, provide it, you probably can get more profit out of it if you manage it properly and just do it in country
Hmm.
without, going outsourcing to other countries where you have, language and, uh, all kinds of barriers that can come into play. So I'm
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. I'm encouraged by the movements lately to bring more manufacturing back to America. And I know there's already a lot here, but to grow it, to re-encourage it, reinvest,
Mhm.
and bring manufacturing back where possible.
Well, and I think, I saw this firsthand. So, 16 years ago, I was part of a launch of a big, thousands of people employed factory and in a small rural town that, didn't have a lot of industry. And one of the things that is unique to manufacturing versus building a giant mall, or a shopping center is that, when you place a factory in a community, like you are just pumping money into that community without taking anything out. And that's what people don't realize. So, when we're building diesel engines that get sold all around the world, that means there's money from all around the world going in, paying wages. And then it's not only the people that work in the company, there's always the famous statistics. I don't recall what it is, but for every job inside of the factory, it creates so many supporting jobs outside of the factory. Think about cleaning
Yes,
crews, think about security, think about
yes,
everything that goes in to support a plant. And I saw it firsthand, seeing a community just go from not having a lot of opportunities, graffiti everywhere, to being prosperous, well, good jobs, new houses being built. And that's the power of manufacturing. It's really, and you drive by these factories every day and you don't even know what's going on inside of them. It just looks like a big gray concrete building. But inside of it,
Mhm.
there's robots, there's people, there's a lot of energy and all these things being created, and all that brings value to the community. So that's why it's you really see communities that promote and try to bring manufacturers in. That's why, because it really brings a lot to the community. It doesn't take away anything from the community, just creates jobs and creates wealth and creates opportunities. So there's towns, sadly, like in the Midwest, when a factory shuts down, they say the town dies. Like that's why, right? Like because it
Right.
really has such an impact on it. So yes, that's why manufacturing is important, and that's why it can bring so much opportunities, especially to underserved areas and rural areas. So yeah, that's why I always promote manufacturing, because I've seen firsthand what it can do. One thing we didn't touch on is that in manufacturing, you have a career. And it doesn't matter if you got your GED or you got an engineering degree, there is a opportunity to advance in manufacturing, because unlike other industries, right, you might start out as a customer facing rep, either in the register or working in a restaurant or as a server. Like there's the opportunities to move up, there's only a few, right? Like maybe you go into a leadership management role, but that's about it. And in manufacturing, you can start out as a entry level assembly person, then you can become a maintenance tech, then you can become a maintenance tech level 2. Then the company will send you to get additional training and you learn a skill. Now you become a CMM programmer, and your wages go up tremendously. So that's the other thing. And the other thing is too, manufacturing, like people that do well in manufacturing will be kept and will be promoted. So if you stick with it, you do a good job and you show up, the opportunities are there. And it's there is a path basically in manufacturing, because there's just so many opportunities. And I think too, the other benefits, usually manufacturing jobs have better benefits. You're working steady hours, right? So that's the other part. You're
Yes,
working even if it's a shift operation, but you're working steady hours, so
yes,
that that helps out a lot, versus like if you're working retail or fast food, a lot of times you're working your weekends. So you can have your weekends, opportunity for overtime. I mean,
yeah,
there's entry level jobs. I go back to my days in the Midwest, right? These were assembly jobs, putting parts on machines. You had people with overtime 16 years ago they were making $100,000 a year, right? Like that, and that's again, this also the opportunities are there
yes.
to really, that are different than in other industries. So that's another thing too, is not only does it do a lot for the community, for individuals, if it's a good fit, it can be very rewarding.
That's super. Tom, I can't thank you enough for chatting with us today. I'd like to ask you if you'd be willing to maybe do another Zoom call sometime.
Absolutely. It's definitely been a pleasure to speak with you today, Tim, and love to do it again.
Super, super. Thank you. I was going to ask you another question or two, but I know we've gone nearly an hour, so that you've been gracious to share that much time with us, and your experience has been incredible. Tom, this is really like a two-pronged thing. I'm of course going to share this video with Chapman University, and they're going to use it to share with students, not just at Chapman, but potentially nationally. And then also, I don't know if I mentioned or if Tom mentioned to you, I mean, Jim, I'm sorry, that I'm also president of the local Society of Manufacturing Engineering, Local 153, which is Los Angeles chapter. So I'm going to share it on their YouTube and LinkedIn and so forth. So anyway, just can't thank you enough, Tom. And you've been a good cheerleader for manufacturing and operations and supply chain and so forth. We really appreciate you, and you're a treasure of knowledge, even at your young age.
Thank you so much, Tim. Again, it's something that I'm passionate about because it really gave me the opportunities and blessings to have this wonderful life. And again, I these opportunities are here for others to take. So I strongly encourage people to at least give it a try. That
Yes.
don't assume what you hear in the media from people that never worked in a factory or never seen a manufacturing operation. I think we do as a community. I believe once a year, most manufacturers open up their doors to the public
Mm-hmm.
on the manufacturing day. I strongly recommend people participate with that. I know the schools are pretty good at coordinating with manufacturers. Check it out. It's an interesting world. I take it for
Yes.
granted because I get to be in a lot of cool factories. But
Yes.
and anytime I have an opportunity to bring someone that's never been in a factory, they look at it and they're like, "Wow, this is like Star Wars." That's what it
Yes.
feels like because it's so
Yes.
high tech and interesting.
Yeah. Well, Tom, thank you again so much. And I'll be sending you a copy of this. And but I'll be reaching out to you again too to see if we can set up another one.
Sounds great. I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much again, Tom. Appreciate you. Take care.